All right, guys, what is good, guys? Welcome to Flav Oriana's MMA show. I'm your host, Flav Oriana, brought to you by Four Corner Sports. All right, guys, so this past week we had, UFC Fight Night, Blaydes versus Lewis. Phenomenal card, all right? Didn't have all the star-studded names that we all needed, but, I mean, it lived up to what it happened, you know. Prelims were pretty good. You know, everything starting off with Sergey Spivak versus Jared Vanderaa. It was a heavyweight bout. Sergey Spivak ended up winning inside round 2. You also had Amin Zabah versus Draco Rodriguez. That knockout was pretty spectacular. I had Draco Rodriguez winning that fight. He let me down right there. The Casey O'Neill versus Shannon Dobson. Shannon Dobson ends up losing that fight, falling to 4-5. Casey O'Neill remains perfect with a 6-0 record. This featherweight bout between Nate Landwear versus Julian Rosa. Look, I had this fight circled. Nate the Train Landwear is always must-see television right there. Plus, you know, Julian Rosa looked like he had something to fight for. But that flying knee from Julian Rosa, these guys were going into a scrap immediately, all right? Fight lasted 56 seconds, but Nate Landwehr ends up getting up after a flying knee, you know, after he absorbs the flying knee, ends up protesting the fight, and it was very questionable. I really didn't agree with the ref's decision as for stopping the fight. I think they should have just let it, you know, play out a little bit. He did get clipped. He did fall down, but did it look like he was not going to be able to continue the fight? Look, he looked like he had a lot left in the tank right there. I think that fight should have just played out, you know, more. I understand Nate Landwehr's disagreement about that bout, but I mean, what can you do at this point? I mean, hopefully you got to just get your next victory, you know, a win, your next bout as a win, and move on forward. Maybe you could, you know, get a rematch later down the line. Next, we had a bantamweight fight in the prelims. Eddie Weiland versus John Castaneda. Eddie Weiland recently had last fought against Sugar Sean O'Malley and got knocked out. Was able to recover the chin, but it didn't seem like he ended up recovering the chin, you know, good enough, because John Castaneda ended up knocking him down, and he absorbed way too many punches, and unfortunately ended up losing the fight. John Castaneda ends up improving to 18-5. Eddie Weiland is now officially 24 wins with 15 losses and 1 no contest. Personally, I do feel that it's time for Eddie Weiland to hang it up. This guy's been fighting since 2003. It's been a very, very long time since he's been fighting. I just think that there's no point for him to fight any longer. And then the feature prelim, we had Jared Gordon versus Danny Chavez. Jared Gordon ended up missing weight. I believe he missed weight by a few pounds, more like 4 or 5 pounds. Ends up winning the fight, beating Danny Chavez. Jared Gordon improves 17 with 17 wins, 4 losses. Danny Chavez falls to 11-4. And then on now for the main card. Now the opener of the main card was Tom Aspinall versus Andrei Arlovski, right? Andrei Arlovski is walking into his 52nd professional fight, right? Former heavyweight champion many years ago, facing Tom Aspinall, a rising prospect from the great country of England. Guy's a training partner for Tyson Fury, and it just showed that Tom Aspinall is levels way better than Andrei Arlovski in this stage of Arlovski's career. Aspinall dominates the fight in round 1, dominates the fight in round 2. You know, the octagon definitely got tested to see how strong it is, because both those guys, you know, fell back onto the octagon after Aspinall bull rushed them, and then Aspinall gets up smartly, puts his arm around the neck of Arlovski and forces Arlovski to tap out by a guillotine. A rear naked chokehold. And Arlovski knew it right then and there. As soon as he locked it in, he was just forced to tap at that point. And then Aspinall improves to 10-2. Orlovsky is now 30-20 and with 2 no contests. So what's going to happen next for these two gentlemen right over here? Well, Orlovsky is clearly have showed that he is the gatekeeper for the heavyweight division if you do want to be ranked. Aspinall, passed the test with flying colors. So what's next for Aspinall? Well, what's next for Aspinall? Well, there is a couple of heavyweights that are inside rank 10 through 15 that may need a fight, and I certainly do feel like we need to give Aspinall that push. The UFC was trying to push Tanner Boser, fell short against Andrei Arlovsky, so it was time for Aspinall to get that push. Got the push, succeeded with flying colors. So now what's next? Well, Marcin Tybura is gonna be fighting, recently soon. He's gonna fight sometime soon. I don't know about Sergey Pavlovich. He's a prospect alone himself. One person that I do want to see Aspinall fight. Now it's a couple of them. I do want to see Aspinall fight Alexei Olynyk, but we'll get to him in a second. Blagoy Anivov would be somebody that strikes my attention heavily to seeing what he can do, but I'm not sure if that's the fight that the UFC wants to put out there. The fight that I definitely want to see Tom Aspinall get is JDS Jr. Dos Santos. I think if you put him up with Tom Aspinall against Junior Dos Santos, who is ranked 12, he wins. He's inside the top 15, and then right then and there, the UFC can put him on 3 more fights before he might be eligible to fight for a title. He gets past Junior Dos Santos. We know that he's very legitimate, that he has a lot of promise, and that he has a bright future ahead of him. As for Andrei Arlovsky, I don't know. Arlovsky has a lot of stuff that he might have to think about. Should he retire? Should he continue fighting? I mean, this guy's been fighting for quite some time. I don't know. I really don't know who Arlovsky should fight next. Because you're going to put him up there with a young and up-and-coming prospect. You don't want to put him in there with somebody that, that's not, up-and-coming right then and there. I mean, I seen some people put out there Alexei Olynyk versus Andrei Arlovsky. I certainly don't want to see that fight whatsoever. But if I had to make a choice, I'm going to put Chris Dawkins versus... No, I'm sorry, because Chris Dawkins isn't... I'll get to Chris Dawkins. Scratch that. Arlovsky, I don't know. It's just really tough. I can't think of another heavyweight that might need to fight him. I want to say Greg Hardy, but I don't know if they're gonna have him with that push again. You only get the push once, so I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, I would say maybe Greg Hardy, but I don't know if they're in the same weight camp, the same camp. I don't know. I might have to get back to you guys with that one, because that's something right there. Yeah, we'll skip that until I figure out who this guy should fight. Yeah, I'll skip it. I'll skip it for now. I think I need to thoroughly figure out who Arlovsky should fight. But as of right now, I'm gonna have it as Arlovsky versus Greg Hardy. All right. So next, we ended up having a bout with Phil Haas, right, versus Nasruddin Aminov. Now, Nasruddin Aminov was a big step up for Phil Haas. Phil Haas, right, was on the Contender Series before, lost, came back, won, right? Now, is put up against a big test, right, against Nasruddin Aminov. It's actually his first fight was against Jacob Makalev, right? And he won that fight inside 20 seconds. He actually won it in 18 seconds. So, who should Phil Haas fight next? Well, in my opinion, I think he should get some type of revenge, right? Because he ended up fighting Julian Marquez, if I'm not mistaken, inside the Contender Series. And that's a fight that I would love for him to have. So, I would say Julian Marquez versus Phil Haas. It's 1-0 Marquez. Phil Haas fights. He gets the victory. It's 1-1. You could do the trilogy right over there. As for Nasruddin, I don't know. I would love to see Nasruddin Amino versus Joaquin Buckley. Both coming off losses. Both are powerful. Both can strike right there. Both can be explosive. I think Buckley could be more explosive than Nasruddin. That would be a scrap right there. I think, honestly, that might finish inside of a round, if I'm not mistaken myself. So, yeah, Nasruddin versus Joaquin Buckley would definitely make, fireworks inside that octagon. Next, we had a heavyweight bout between Chris Dawkins versus Lexi Olynyk. Dawkins ends up winning. He won inside 2 minutes. Just kept on punching Olynyk until Herb Dean had to step in the middle and stop the fight. Now, Dawkins, beats ranked, if I'm not mistaken, he was ranked number 8, 9, somewhere in that top 10 for Olynyk. So what's going to happen with Dawkins? Well, Dawkins is definitely going to be inside the top 15 at this point. No, Olynyk was ranked number 10. What's going to happen with Dawkins? Well, you could put Chris Dawkins in there, in my opinion, with Walt Harris. Right, Walt Harris has lost his last, I believe it was his last 2 fights in a row. Lost to Alexander Volkov, lost to Alistair Overeem. You put him up there with a rising prospect in Chris Dawkins. I think Chris Dawkins is going to need that push right there. We'll be able to see further on, is Walt Harris worth keeping on in the roster, considering that he might be falling into 13-10 with a record, and is Chris Dawkins the real deal, right? He's getting a lot of shine right there for Rodrigo Nastimo Vieira. You also beat up on Parker Porter. So I don't know. I mean, personally, right there, had 3 fights in the UFC. He has won by knockout, but in all his fights right there, he never made it past the first round. So putting him against Walt Harris would be a significant test, right? And I'm not against it at all. I actually would like to see that. As for Alexei Olynyk, you know what? Maybe he should fight Andrei Arlovski. Maybe you should scratch that bout between Arlovski versus Greg Hardy. Because I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, they both had fought at some point, right? I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure they both had fought. I actually would like to see, Olynyk versus Arlovski. That would be a great fight right there. Nope, I'm sorry. Arlovski did not fight Hardy. He fought Bolster and Felipe Lins last year. Then he had fought Jairzinho, lost to Jairzinho, beat Rafa, lost to Augusto Sakai. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did not face Greg Hardy. But I like the Olynyk Arlovski fight, to have 2 legends out there. And if not, have Arlovski fight Greg Hardy. But for Olynyk's sake, I actually would prefer him to fight Arlovski. Have 2 people, around the same age, fight one another. It's better off that way. All right, so next we had a featherweight bout between Derrick Minner versus Charles Rosa. Honestly, Charles Rosa, I favored him in this matchup, but Derrick Minner has, gotten a lot of his submissions inside the first round. Having, James Krause in your corner, right? Having James Krause in your corner and coaching you up is a cheat code right then and there. Because everything that James Krause had said to Derrick Minner, he had followed, and everything was done and clear. Derrick Minner had dominated the fight, winning, the fight by decision against Charles Rosa. Derrick Minner improves to 26-11 and 13-5. to be honest, I don't even know who's these two matchmake for one another. It had a women's bantamweight fight between Caitlin Vieira versus Yana Kunstsikaya. Yana Kunstsikaya ends up winning the fight 29-28 by all three judges. Vieira, surprisingly had lost, goes to 11-2. Yana Kunstsikaya improves to 14-5. And then lastly, for the heavyweight bout, the main event, Curtis Blaydes versus Derrick Lewis. Finally, Derrick Lewis showed why he is the man, because Curtis Blaydes was talking about his wrestling, how Derrick Lewis's wrestling is very amateur, and I don't know why Curtis Blaydes thought that it was a smart idea to, stand up with Derrick Lewis. He won round 1. He thought that maybe he could do it for another round. He shoots for a takedown in round 2 and eats an uppercut from hell from Derrick Lewis. Eats an uppercut from hell. Puts his lights out. Game over. As Herb Dean is trying to get in the middle and stopping the fight, Derrick Lewis lands 2 clean punches to Curtis Blaydes. And some people were giving him crap about that. Look, Jorge Masvidal said the same thing. His job is, as a fighter, he's supposed to keep on punching until the referee stops the fight and the fight is over. All right. I agree with Masvidal. I agree with Derrick Lewis. Continue punching no matter what at that point, even if it looks bad, until the referee stops it. So what's going to happen next with these guys? Because look, Curtis Blaydes going into that fight, he never lost to anybody outside the name of Francis Ngannou, which there's no shame in that whatsoever. Now he loses to Derrick Lewis. Both guys hit hard, nonetheless, right? So what's going to be next? In my opinion, what's going to be next for these two gentlemen over here, I personally think that Curtis Blaydes is going to fall back. The UFC is not going to push him. I personally feel that Blaydes is most likely going to end up fighting Augusto Sakai. Augusto Sakai lost to Curtis Blaydes' teammate, Alistair Overeem. As for Derrick Lewis, he called out Alistair Overeem. They clearly have some beef against one another. I could see the UFC giving him that fight. But, in my opinion, I see Dana White saying, screw that. The Alistair Overeem fight doesn't make any sense in his eyes. I clearly see them putting him against the winner of Jairzinho Rosenstrike versus Cyril Gane. Because right now, who's going to have next after March 27th, after the bout between Ngannou versus Stipe, is going to be John Jones. All right? If Ngannou wins, then he's most likely going to fight Jones on International Fight Week. If Stipe wins, who knows? That fight might happen in December or next year, which is not good for business. But I really do love Jairzinho versus Cyril Gane, the winner of that facing Derrick Lewis. But that's my take right there. All right. Next week we're gonna have Jairzinho versus Cyril Gane in the main event. Then be Pedro Muniz versus Jimmy Rivera. We're gonna have Angela Hill versus Ashley Yoder, which that's gonna be a good fight right there. The feature prelim was gonna be Alexander Hernandez versus Thiago Moises, Randy Brown versus Cowboy Alex Oliveira, William Knight versus Alonzo Menefiel. It's a lot of good fights in that perspective right there. But look, Derrick Lewis gets the win this past Saturday. He's now has 12 knockouts in the UFC. I think he's tied for the most, if not has the most knockouts inside the UFC. Clearly the most knockouts in the heavyweight division. And the sky is going up. I think Derrick Lewis might have the opportunity of fighting for a title one more time before he hangs it up. But until then, guys, look, I'm your host, Flav Oriana, and thank you for tuning in to Flav Oriana's MMA show. And please hit that like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time. Peace, guys. Have a good one.